Thank you for joining me on Allie's Awareness Avenue. This is where we talk about life issues. Today, I am talking to singer, pop diva out of Australia, as well as the founder of Music Talks, which is a site where artists can portray their own personality by providing their own story, which most people can relate to and easily find talent. She's on this show tonight for a different reason. She's going to be talking about suicide and other life issues that she unfortunately goes through on a regular basis. And I'm so honored that she chose my show to talk publicly about it because she never has before. Please say hello to Tracey Arbon. Hello, Tracey.
Hi, Ali. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so excited that you're on. We follow each other on Twitter and all social media. I love what you do.
Thank you.
I can't wait till you release some more music, but you can tell us all about that. You're also doing a giveaway. So just everybody that's listening, you have to listen till the end of the interview. She's going to give away a men's and women's t-shirt that says Music Talks. They're nice. They're gorgeous. I've seen them. And she's also going to give 3 artists at the last 2 weeks of January, featured artist placements for free. Woo-hoo,
yes.
3 of them.
That's right. 3.
So to do that, we'll remind you at the end of the show, but you just have to message her on Twitter at Music Talks. And that's exactly how you found her. Okay, so Tracey, briefly talk about, obviously, your singing and also Music Talks, and then we'll delve into everything else.
Sure. Well, I started singing, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how old I am right now, but I did start singing way back. How old was I? Probably about 13 maybe I started. And I started doing national TV programs at 15.
Wow.
And, that led to moving from Adelaide to Sydney and did the big show called Star Search. I don't know if you had Star Search.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't think I'd win, but I kept winning and winning. So I ended up staying, and I had to actually stay in my grandmother's pen pal's house.
Oh.
It was quite interesting, actually, a very interesting story. Her granddaughter now is actually my best friend. So we're the same age. So it was quite funny. But anyway, I stayed until I was in the finals. And then it led to a lot of work, and I never went back to Adelaide. So I've actually done a few albums, although I only have 1 out, but the others basically because my hands are tied legally, I cannot have them available. So hence the Music Talks site, and also I've been doing a like music for 35 years, so. Mm-hmm. And worked with a lot of great people in England and in the States, namely, there's Hamish Stewart from the Average White Band, and Louis Shelton produced my Colours album. He is amazing. He's from America, actually, but he lives here. He's been living here for many, many years now. And, he was involved with, Whitney Houston and Barbra Streisand. He even played with Elvis Presley.
Oh, my God.
So, he's a great guy, great family. We're still in touch. And it's really funny because I know all these people and I've never asked them on to my own guest talks.
Oh, my goodness, I know. You know what? Sometimes, though, you're kind of like, oh, I don't want them to think because I know them that, they should come on. I know I feel the same way.
Yeah, and we have good friendships, and there's a lot of people in the industry that I know, and I even grew up with and went to school with a really big TV, film, music producer and writer who actually lives in LA as well. He moved to LA not long after he finished high school, and we went through school together, and he does some really big scores for TV and film, like Batman and all this sort of stuff. And and I have asked him, but we just keep communicating on Facebook a lot, with friends and stuff. And I don't know what it is. I'm terrible like that.
I'm sure he'll get him on. Don't worry. Especially after he hears this Please come on Tracey's show.
Yes.
There you go.
Robert, call out to Robert, call out to Louis, call out to Chong. Yeah. Slight hint. Yeah, so, I've done a lot with music, but I ended up having to stop because, I had kids. Mm-hmm. And not long after my second child was 8 months old, my mother was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she was living in Adelaide, so we had to do the really big move from Adelaide to Sydney to help her, and I took care of her for 3 years. She was given only 12 months to live because it was the highly aggressive cancer, but, if anybody knows what I'm like, I'm pretty aggressive in a way that nothing's going to beat us. Mm-hmm. We got to do the best we can in every possible situation. And when I say nothing's going to beat us, I mean that in a personal aspect. I'm not in for competition or anything like that. I never have been. But mm-hmm. as far as life is concerned, I've always had that view on life. Yeah. I never, ever look back. But that's a really, really interesting thing. I noticed a lot of people look back on their lives and think about their lives a lot, and it's until I do things like this, and when I gave you information, I really started to look and go, oh my God. Yeah. And yeah, so I took care of her for 3 years, and also having two very, very young children at that stage, and then not long after that I separated with my husband. Good Lord. And left with two young girls, and it just keeps going. I met a new partner, and not long after he also got cancer, amongst other things. And so I not long after my mother passed away as well, I delved quite deeply into depression myself. Mm-hmm. And to the point that I struggled to get out of bed. But I knew I had to. I had two kids. Yeah. And, you push yourself to just live. Yeah. And I got tired of it. I thought to myself, I have to do something here. It is up to nobody else but myself to get back on track and get my mojo back. I really did want to get back into music, but I thought that I still had to take care of my kids. I really didn't have anybody else. I had no family around, and I had to take care of them. I couldn't imagine being out gigging and everything and leaving them in somebody else's hands, because there is no family, and it would be different, I think, if there was family around. Yeah, probably, yeah. But with, and realising, watching my mother go through what she went through, and I thought, my kids need me. I had issues also with my kids too, even from a very young age, not knowing what was wrong with them. Mm-hmm. So that made it really difficult. I couldn't go out. I couldn't network. I did try once. I had a babysitter come around who knew me very well, and when I came home, she was crying. And she said, I don't know, but I can't do this again. Oh, no. So I went, oh, my God, what is wrong with my kids? But, and I didn't know any different. As a mother, you don't know what kids are supposed to be like, and all you'd hear is, oh, look, kids are like that, Mm-hmm. Kids are energetic, kids are, and you just don't know. You have really nothing to compare it with until you start going through school, and then, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it keeps going. But, so I couldn't actually delve into the music, so I thought, I need to get up and do something. And then I had this idea about having a site, that it gives the freedom to the artists to write what they wish, because what's important to people is knowing the real stories behind other people. Yes. And yeah, and I think that even though I'd seen so many blogs and things, and yes, there are interviews, and there are a lot of artists that don't like to talk about really private things. I guess that's similar to me. This is really, really personal, what we're about to touch on, but mm-hmm. And I get that, but I also understand marketing very well too. And for marketing to work well, you have to be honest, and not only that, I think it's also, it does help other people to know that other people aren't alone, whatever the situation may be. And so giving the artist the freedom to write whatever they like, and I don't change anything that they write, maybe some grammar issues, maybe. Some of them don't speak English very well, so maybe just a few touch-ups here and there, but I always leave their personality, their writing personality in there. Yeah, I thought that was really, really important. And so that's how Music Talks began, just from featuring artists who write their own stories.
Well, and it's doing extremely well, like extremely well. I am so glad that I'm part of your website just a little bit.
Look, you've got an amazing, I think you're an amazing woman. And I know that what you've done in the past as well, you know, you've been on radio, you've done radio before, you understand that side of the industry. Mm-hmm. It's not easy.
No.
But hey, so what's that saying? Life wasn't meant to be easy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so now Music Talks exploding, and your kids are getting older. You have 2 daughters, and I know you sent me all the information, and I was like, oh my God. I think you're extremely strong, Tracey, first off. I think you are like superwoman, because, oh my God. And after many years of being away from music, that's why you got into Music Talks. And then your personal story for the past 10 years hasn't been so great. I mean, your mother ended up with cancer and passing away. Your marriage, ended. And then you were with a partner who had cancer and he passed. Yeah. And then you started noticing.
Oh, he's still alive.
Oh, he is still alive. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought he passed too. Good Lord. Okay, good. I'm glad, kind of. No, I'm seriously glad. But then your daughter's.
Funny he is.
I know, right? I thought he had passed away too, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, like, oh God, the woman's gone through too much. I'm glad that he is still alive.
He's still here.
Yeah, he's still here. So, as your daughters were getting older, things started kind of popping up, and you talked about when they started going to school.
Yeah, well, my eldest daughter is now 18, and she. Before my youngest daughter was born, there was always these issues of she never wanted to leave my side. She had, quite severe anxiety from, separation anxiety. And, and I just sort of went along with it. She was scared of Santa, and a lot of kids are, and that's quite normal. But she went to school without any issues until about year 5, where she suffered extreme anxiety. This is before the second one. And she ended up, it's interesting because schools aren't or haven't been that, I guess, well prepared for kids with severe anxiety issues. And she ended up having to go to admitted to hospital and having time off school. And, we went through a lot of, other hospitals and help and things like that. So at least I had this awareness of what this was. She was diagnosed with ADHD at that stage, but there was still something wrong. She was still slipping through the cracks. And once she became better, then I always had in the back of my head, I really need to check out what's wrong with my younger daughter. Because I knew there was something wasn't right, and I had people saying, "Oh, take her to a behavioural specialist or therapist." And I thought, it's more than that. It's just I can't put my finger on it. And there were big meltdowns. I'm talking meltdowns where she'd kick holes through the walls and smash windows. And
good Lord.
Not long ago I caught the monitor of a computer.
Oh my goodness!
in midair. But I know what it is now, and it wasn't until she was in year 4 where she was diagnosed with autism. Mm-hmm. And we always had the separation anxiety with her every single day, to the point that we would have the principal, school teachers, other people trying to drag her out of the car. And her anxiety was so bad, but we didn't know it was really anxiety. We thought it was, her school refusal. Mm-hmm. Not only that, she would end up going to the toilets and just hiding in the school toilets and crying. She would get very angry in the classroom. It was a really difficult time until she was diagnosed. But the school kind of didn't believe that she was autistic because she was so bright. Mm-hmm. And this is quite often the problem.
Very often, very often. My daughter went through the same thing with my grandson.
Yeah, and it's just, and the other one, my 18-year-old was only diagnosed on the spectrum literally 12 months ago. So she's basically slipped through the entire school system.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's because she can speak really well. She's very pretty, you know. She's very well liked and loved. She's a very big YouTuber, and you know, she could never understand though written context. She could never memorize it or comprehend it. And now we finally know what it is. She's basically slipped through the entire school system. So we're having to start again with her, you know, so she can understand normal living,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
what happens in the world. But the other daughter is currently just jumping ahead. She hasn't been at school now for 2 years. She should be in year 9 at school. She would be in year 10 next year. For 2 years because of, you know, her anxiety led from, with being autistic, she used to, you know, throw temper tantrums. And then it progressed through her becoming mute whenever she was anxious. And, you know, I realised this only looking back. At that time, I didn't know why she stopped talking. And it was just suddenly she's gone mute. And then that turned into self-harm, you know, through the last few years. And the self-harm, initially, you know, it was a bit of a shock. And, yeah, the hospital knows us very well. But she's needed stitches, yes. But now it's just such, you know, a weekly event. There are times that she has really wanted to die. She has said, what's the point of living anymore? Like, we die anyway. And it wasn't until when she started talking about this, I would sit down with her on her level in her room and just talk calmly and quietly and ask her, do you actually know what death is? And she would say, oh, she would look at me. I remember she looked at me blankly and, you know, really just wasn't sure. So I had actually went through with her, and as you do with, you know, kids on the spectrum, you have to really explain things in detail. You have to put the pictures in their head, and sometimes then processing that takes quite a long time. So I did say, you know, to her then, I said, it means that you don't breathe anymore. You don't see anything anymore. You don't feel anything anymore. You will never see me again, and you'll never see your sister again. And you know what? We don't get to see you either. And it's really sad because that's the end. You don't feel anything anymore. And this is how, you know, I talk with her. And she looked at me like she was shocked and like, really, like, that's what death is. And it was a surprise to me that she didn't really know. Yet there's so much of this talk online as well about kids saying, oh, go kill yourself. And they just say it.
Yeah, they do.
You know, they just say it without any thought behind it. And this was also going on at school before she, you know, stopped going to school. And we did try and get her to school. We tried every day for quite a long time. And there'll be patterns. We'll see certain patterns. But on this one particular day, I remember we tried getting her there just for 2 hours. I thought, let's try and go, and I'll sit out the side. I'll sit out the front of the school. And, you know, I had my phone with me. I'll work on my phone. I'll do like what I could. And, you know, in the space of 2 hours, two kids on separate occasions asked her, why hasn't she killed herself yet?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, you know, school's not, I don't blame her.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
I really don't, you know, and even though, you know, she does go to a school where there is a special needs unit in a class there, and there are only 6 kids in that class. They have the option to go to mainstream, but she's tried that and she just couldn't cope. And I think it's the whole environment she just couldn't cope with. But, you know, they were doing amazing things at the school to try and help her, and we just couldn't. Nothing worked. You know, we tried introducing different things. Maybe she's interested in doing something musically, which she loves music, but it just wasn't enough to keep her there. And it's like everything when you're dealing with kids who have depression and anxiety, and putting in strategies, the strategies don't last. And not only that, they actually need to do them. And you'll find that a lot of teenagers, especially when they're in that state and they're in a highly anxious state, they know they need to do them, but to actually get past that barrier is really, really hard for them to do. So it's quite easy for us to say, all you have to do is do it. But, it's still to this day, she's unable to do it. We're still trying. But along that way to help her, we would have other strategies that would put into place, like, I guess, when she's feeling really low, let's say she's a red on the scale. We have a scaling system. And, if she's green, you can tell when she's green, she's walking around the house, she's quite okay. Suddenly she can change within a minute. That's how fast. It's like a minute-to-minute situation in the house. And if she disappears, I know what's going on. I know she's gone to a room, she's either self-harming or trying to take her life.
Jesus.
So I would then, quite often you would hear me, even to the day, even last night, Keegan, I shouldn't say name, I would yell out her name, and I'd start to panic because no one answers me.
Oh my goodness.
And where is she? Where is she? And then, I might find she's in the bathroom. But, other times that when she's just disappeared without a trace, I know she's gone to a room, and I'd go straight up there, and I'd quite often find her covered in blood or, and the really, really important thing is never, ever get angry at them. It just doesn't help at all. When you see them in that state, never ask them why they're doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just doing it because it makes them feel better. They do get some kind of relief from harming themselves, and it's hard for people to understand. I always think we have all of the sharp instruments put away in a toolbox in the kitchen. We have lanyards around our neck with a key, and it's a real pain in the bum, I tell you, to try and get a knife just to cut a salad.
Yeah, I guess.
So, where's the lanyard? But when somebody really wants to do something, they will find a way of doing it.
Yeah.
You can. I look in my cupboards. I go, well, how am I going to hide all the glasses? What do I do with the mirrors? What do I do? And even pencil sharpeners. And this is what she's resorted to is, finding old pencil sharpeners and cracking them open and getting the blades out and, cutting herself. But I go in there and I caught her the other day. She had the blade in her hand and she was in a complete state. And you can't say, give me the blade now. You can't put on that mother voice. You've got to be so, so calm, and you have to, ask her, look, can you give me the blade? Can you give me the blade? Please just give me the blade and everything will be, and you put your arm around her at the same time and, just sit with her. And yes, it's a bit of a mess. And at that time I might call my other daughter. I'll say, can you just come up here and can you go and grab me the bandages and the betadine and I'll grab her hand then and we'll go into the bathroom and we'll clean her up with some saline and, do the normal thing. But to us, it's become such a weekly event. I don't get angry. I'm not surprised, but I think the reason everything is so heightened, in a heightened state here, is because you don't know when they're in that state of anxiety that they may cut a bit deeper. And that's the concern. She knows about which veins not to cut, but she's cut there. And so, and I've explained to her, look, you go deeper. This is like, this is big. So, I explained to her, you die. And then, depending on what mood she's in as well. Some of it is just purely anxiety, and some of it is I just want to die. I really want to die. I want to end my life. And that, as a parent, is, it's, what can I say? It's just the one thing you don't want to ever hear from your kids.
No, ever.
But there's two sides of it too. I think it's 30% of people who do take their lives don't ever say they're going to take their lives.
No, they just do it.
Yeah, and some of them just do it just at a certain time. There might not even be any thought to it, and they could be the happiest people in the world on the outside, and I think people know about this. But there is, some common, I guess, threads with a lot of people, and that they'll be the people who would contact everybody, make contact with people and, catch up with them and call a lot of people. And once they feel like they've made their goodbyes to everybody without physically saying that, they then go and end their lives. And that's why you hear people say, oh, I was only in touch with them the other day. They called me. They seemed fine, Quite often that's their only way of calling out for help. But no one's to know that. I always think now if I'm going to hear from somebody that I haven't heard from for years, I'm going to ask them, how's everything going really, and are they okay?
Yeah.
It's a lot of people don't open up. It's really, really sad, the whole situation. And there's, like I said, there's two different sides of suicide. A lot of the people that do say, like, I have been told, I'm surrounded by lots of medical personnel.
Yeah, I guess.
We see them a lot, as recent as like 12 hours ago. Well, yeah, not long ago. Because again, we had incidences yesterday. So it's it's all the time happening. But there's I had been told. I was just saying, I have been told that quite often when people constantly try and harm themselves, then they really don't want to die. It is out of anxiety. But then there are those times where they feel, what's the point of living? And that's when they're severely depressed. So they're two different things.
Yes.
And it's when, like I said, when she would say to me, I just really want to die, I find that really, really, really concerning. And if that's coupled with the anxiety of wanting to cut, that's when we're at a most dangerous stage.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what can I say? Yeah. So that's
I don't even know what to say. I don't know how you survive every day. I wanted to bring this up because I'm going to talk about my granddaughter. You say watch out for Snapchat and other popular apps that often many people don't know about. And there was a game by a Japanese guy where it involved people taking their life, and one girl did. Yes. There's live streaming apps where people are maybe calling out for help and people are egging them on because they think it's a joke, and then they do take their lives. And my granddaughter was in a group on Snapchat where all they talked about was self-harming. And my daughter was blown away. She couldn't believe that was what their discussion was. And I think a lot of people think that everybody that self-harms is doing it for attention, and they're doing it because other people do it. And you've got to be very, very careful with making that assumption, because that's not always the case. And even if they are in this group and they're doing it and they're talking about it, it's a way for them to kind of, and my granddaughter, it's like a tea kettle. And it boils and boils and boils, and then it has to open up to just let the steam out. And that's how I put into terms with her about self-harming, because you have to let it out somehow. And I just don't like it when people just assume. And I mean, I'm sure there are, a few that do it because everybody else is doing it. But I think the majority are doing it for, mental health reasons, not because they just, their friends are doing it. But I'm glad that you brought that up.
Sorry?
I'm glad that you put that in your bio when you sent everything. I'm glad that you talked about Snapchat and the apps that are out there.
Yeah, look, I'm really concerned about the whole social media aspect, and even though as parents we try our best to keep an eye on it, when they become teenagers, it's hard. It's really hard. We do, people say take it out of their bedrooms. She actually has an iPad, and the whole we're sort of on it's a balancing act, because I could go out for a walk one day, and I haven't been able to go out walking for a long time now, and it was mainly because of this day of what happened. I had my phone on me, and one of her friends called me while I was out on the walk, and she said, quick, rush home, she's harming, she's talking about taking a life and all this sort of thing. And quite often I would get messages on my phone, even in the middle of the night, from a friend who's heard from my daughter over Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, my daughter's in the next room.
Yeah.
And saying, I want to, kill myself. And so I get a call from the friend. So this is why I wanted to leave that in a room, because it was her way of calling out to help other than to me. If that's not in her room, then what would have happened?
Exactly.
I don't know. And this is the hard call, it's a tough call, and I still try and ask her for it, at night, but that's a hard one. That's really hard.
Well, and
as well.
She was also in a discussion on Snapchat talking about committing suicide.
You mean
your daughter? Yeah, your daughter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's always happening. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. It's a game. They think it's a game. It's just...
I'm glad you talk about getting down on their level and talking to them about what death actually is. And you said in here, you can't talk about their future because they can't envision it.
No,
they can't see it. But I think it's important to get down on their level and talk to them like you did. And I think I commend you for that, because I don't think a lot of parents, maybe realize that they have to do that.
Yeah, and you can talk about the future and maybe what they'd like to do in a different circumstance. You've got to pick your moments. You've got to pick your battles, like everything. That's not the right time to think about, when they're in the state or they're really depressed, you don't say, well, come on, let's try and do this. When anybody's depressed, they would know that you don't feel like doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried saying, let's go for a walk. Come on, let's go. And it's really tough. Although we do know that walking does help her, but you can divert their thoughts away. Though somehow, quite often, if she's depressed in the room, I might start doing something in her bedroom. Putting away clothes, for example, or she has a mouse, so I'll pick up the mouse and start playing with him, and she'll look at what I'm doing. And only recently I said, I think he needs a bigger cage. I said, oh, maybe I'll go and check out the cage we've got left from the bird cage in the garage. Maybe we could do that up and put a little level in there, and suddenly, and that's the way to divert it. You don't ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say, let's do this, let's do that. The diversion has to be done in such a way where it's sometimes you can't even think about what you're going to divert them with. You've just got to look around the situation at that given time, look around whatever room you're in, and go, don't even say, oh, look at this. Just start doing something that will grab their attention.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to want to get involved in.
Yeah. And I find that's the best way that works for us. Other things is, like I said, when she would go to her room, we used to have a strategy that when she's feeling really, really bad, she is not to close her bedroom door. She has to leave it open. That's been pretty hard. There was other times where I'd say, if you feel like having a nap, don't go upstairs. You have to go and nap on the sofa in the lounge room. There's lots of things that we do, lots of certain strategies that we've tried and put in place, and sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't, but it's constantly changing.
Tracey, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you and I'm just shaking my head because I can't imagine both your daughters. The younger one, I mean, you're dealing with kind of more, but now you have to start kind of life over with your 18-year-old because she's finally been diagnosed. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you even do music talks? Like, I don't know. Like, how do you, like, self-love
Well,
is so important. Like, do you make sure that you're getting that somehow?
for me,
Yeah,
uh,
just kind of like relaxing for like even 20 minutes.
I do. I do. I'm pretty well organised with music talks, but I mean, it's to me. I think it's really important that parents have an outlet.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents don't. A lot of people say you're selfish for doing what you're doing.
Good Lord, no.
And you know, I needed that for myself to begin with. But on the other hand, I also thought that this would be a great thing for the kids to see.
Mm-hmm.
Kids learn from their parents.
Yes.
They watch what they're doing. My 18-year-old said to me, I tried to ask her to help me one day, only this week, and it's like getting blood out of a stone. I've been asking her for 2 weeks to help me with something, and finally got her off her computer. But she would say, I need to do a stream. No, you need to come and help me.
Yeah.
So, but then, she couldn't even focus on it for 10 minutes. She goes, I'm so tired. How do you do this?
Oh my goodness.
And I've gone, oh my gosh. But, in a way, it opens their eyes to see, what you have to do. Everything entails hard work.
Yeah.
And my youngest daughter sees me working on it all the time. I have tried to get her involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
She does love music. She loves indie music. It's quite funny because when we'll get in the car and go somewhere and she'll turn the radio on and she's just skipping all the stations. She goes, it's just so much crap.
I have to agree.
And she goes, it just sounds all the same.
Yes.
And I said, I know, it's what we call faceless music. We don't know who's singing what song to the next song.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unique in any way. No one's unique from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm glad both my girls are like that. I don't know if it's from what I've been doing with music talks, but they have actually found their own music and they've found it through their own avenues as well. And it's not commercial. It's all indie. It's all, although, my youngest daughter loves Panic at the Disco and,
they're very good, actually.
21 Pilots.
Yes, at least they're original. I mean, you can tell that that's who that is. I'm sure they got some of it from you because mostly I'm sure because of music talks, because you put your heart and soul into that as well. And you're right.
They hear everything.
yeah, exactly. And they need to see that too. And I think they probably do get the indie. I know that my grandkids are starting to listen to some indie music, and my daughter loves a song by an artist that I had on. And so it's kind of funny to watch them now get into the indie scene when they weren't before. But yeah, I'm sure they get it from you. Now, one of the things you talked about was Lifeline. They started now. I mean, they're doing it in the States and Canada. I don't know about Australia. You say that they're trialing it. And it's how kids can text them instead of calling them because it's when they're in extreme stress, and especially if they have social anxiety or whatever the case may be, I think it's easier for them to text. I mean, we're in a world of texting anyways. I agree with you. And so are they just starting it now in Australia?
Yeah, it just came up. I just saw it in my Facebook feed, actually. It's how I found out. And I thought, this is really great. And I was in a meeting yesterday and my daughter was there and I'd mentioned that. And she did turn around and say, oh, so-and-so tried that only a few days ago and they had to wait an hour before they got back to them, so they gave up.
Oh my God.
So I'm not sure how that's going to go. Maybe they've just got an influx of it, but they are just trialing that now.
Okay, well hopefully it goes better. An hour is that's not going to help at all.
No.
Like at all.
No,
wow.
No. Yeah, so we have a lot of great support in Australia. the big challenge is the support for teenagers between the ages of like 13 and 16. I know just from first-hand experience that if there was a course that interest my daughter, I know that obviously she would go for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, we have a college system here. It's called TAFE, and you can't actually attend TAFE until you're 15. But that's if you've kind of left school, you can then do TAFE at the start, like when you turn 15. But having said that, if you decide to stay in school, you can do courses at TAFE as part of your school curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the courses don't start until you're in year 11, which means she has to wait another year again on top of this. And I'm thinking, I don't know if we can get through another year.
Oh my goodness.
And yet, I did phone TAFE one day, and this is the really big hole. There's help out there. Look, there's great organisations. We've got organisations called like Headspace and Black Dog, and there are so many, and it's becoming so. The awareness of mental health is becoming quite huge, and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people I know are on antidepressants anyway.
Well, I am. I mean, I'm not going to. I am.
Join the club.
Exactly. And I also take clonazepam at night because I have anxiety. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it is such a common issue. People don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely on something. I have been for quite a long time. And that's, I think, also it kind of helps that if you've been through that and you've got now kids going through that, you do understand them.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
I don't really understand cutting,
mm-hmm.
Although I have been told that it may release an endorphin that once they've finished cutting, that pain, it releases something that actually makes them feel like they're on a high.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and having just found that out, it makes real sense to me, because I know after she has cut, instead of her being anxious, it's like this massive relief. Like she's jumping up and down, really happy.
Wow.
It's very weird. Yeah, it's very, very weird. But that's, and then you try to make sense of it, and you think, oh, okay, well, I can sleep now tonight. She's cut herself. She feels better. I don't definitely agree with cutting at all, but
mm-hmm.
When you're in this situation, it's
you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, but I've forgotten what we were talking about. I'll go off track. So
that's okay. No, you're covering everything. One of the other things you say are like the posts that people put on Facebook and social media saying something like, share this if you support suicide prevention or depression. I never do. And I think I'm of the same mindset as you. I don't have to prove to anybody that I do support it. And who's to say that they actually do? They're just sharing it because somebody sent it to them.
Yeah, and quite often a lot of these posts too are just, it's like chain letters to me, and I don't share them. I may have shared one or two. It's the same like, share if, you've lost somebody to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who hasn't lost somebody to cancer?
I have.
Yeah. And I just, to me, I don't see that in really, I mean, yes, it raises awareness, but why, how is that helping the people with actual depression and people thinking of committing suicide? The last thing anybody who's on that, really, really dark place, and they see that, it's like I'm sure they'd want to swear at it. And, I know what I would be saying.
Yeah, so would I.
What the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a really nasty way, because I guess if these people had really, I don't know, maybe they have suffered depression, but I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just my way of thinking.
No, I feel the same way. I don't share them. I don't share them because my big thing is if you have issues with mental health or somebody that talk about it. Don't just share things on Facebook. Like talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's just how I am. Now, one of the things you say that I think is so important as a parent, especially going through what you're going through, instincts are huge. Never ever ignore them.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can feel it in your body. I know that I might. You're speaking about taking time out. I was really really tired, and one afternoon, and my daughter was here, and I monitored the whole situation. And what you think is monitoring, you think everything's fine. But then I wasn't quite right. I didn't feel right. And I tried to have a nap for just 10 minutes. It was just 10 minutes. And I went to late, but I couldn't sleep. I couldn't have my nap. And next thing, my daughter walks in the room and she's just covered in blood.
Oh,
she
my
is just
God.
dripping down her arms and her legs. But she was in a zombie state. And I didn't have my glasses on, and I didn't know why she was standing there. She was just standing there, and I then put my glasses on and I went, oh, okay. Like, I can't just have that 10 minutes. And, yeah, so, and, and it also happened another time, it was 11 p.m. and she was still up. Both my daughters were on the internet messing around and playing games or whatever. I know they should be in bed, but I think she'd slept all day that day, and often, when you have depression, you do sleep a lot.
Yes, you do.
So, when she's looking happy and, I'll let her go. I'm not going to lay down those rules. Like I said, you've got to pick your battles. You've got to let them realize the joys of life as well, even though there are online games. Anyway,
Yeah.
I went to the local supermarket. It was 10 minutes and came back, and my eldest daughter is attending to my youngest one in trying to clean up, the sake. Doing
Jeez.
bandages and stuff. And I thought, so it is really hard to get a break. But, quite often I might be posting even for Music Talk stuff. And, I actually, instead of working in my office now, I am upstairs in my bedroom working. So as soon as I get up in the morning, it's really bad. I've got to say, it's really, really bad. Routine that I've gotten into. I get up and I still may have my pajamas on. I've opened my laptop, and I swear I'm never going to check my emails first thing in the morning. But I do.
Yes, so do
I still sit here, and it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got to have something to eat. I've got to have a shower, or whatever. I mean, there are those times when she would come in, but. Being depression as well, she would be maybe sleeping, or I would try and, check on her in between those times, try to get her involved with things, then come back and do some work. And sometimes, I'm in the middle of working and I'm rushing off to her, and then, then I come back, or I take my phone in the same room as her, or I might say, let's watch a movie. I might have all my posts set. And, with Music Talks as well, I have to admit, I'm not on social media a lot. I know it doesn't seem like that.
I know it doesn't.
No, I do use some help in some marketing software.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's a godsend. But having said that,
I want that. No. Okay, go on.
You can have, yeah, I'll tell you what that is.
Okay.
But, keep in mind, I am on there. I mean, I always check the messages that come through. I always try my best to respond to people. And, I mean, you can probably tell my posts, that I put up when I'm around.
As opposed to the ones you don't.
Yeah.
Well, and I know you respond. You responded to me, like every time I've talked to you, you've responded right away. So, I mean, I try to do that too, and I just think it's more personable when you do it. But yeah, I know how you feel when you get, I always say I'm not going to pick my phone up when I have my coffee in the morning, and sure enough, and then, yeah, it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, oh my God, where'd the day go?
I do try and put my phone on airplane mode at night, because the amount of
The
amount of
emails.
messages.
Yeah, I don't have my notifications turned on. I feel you. I've
It's
turned them off.
just insane, insane.
It is.
Yeah. So I always try and have time out and movie time with the girls. I would take my laptop then downstairs, and I really try hard not to have it open.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Sorry?
It's hard. And I mean, it must, I mean, some small part might be an escapism for you as well. Like to get engrossed in like all the emails and everything else. You're kind of like, it's a different form of self-love, but at least you're still getting that. Do you know what I mean? Because you kind of go into your own little world when you're doing that. So I think it's important that you do it anyway. And I know it's hard not to, because I'm done the same way. Now, one of the things you've said in all the information that you've sent me that broke my heart, but I understand where it's coming from, is you don't have a lot of friends and you don't ask for help.
No.
And you said no one's really offered help either.
No. Well, I don't really say when I'm feeling down. Like it's like anybody, when you're feeling really depressed, you don't go and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm really depressed." You don't. You don't want to talk to anybody, and and then friends don't know then when you are down or anything like that. I have a handful of really good friends, and everybody's really busy with their own lives and dealing with their own situations. But I think it's really, really hard. I'm always defending my friends. I defend everybody, I guess, because I think, look, they're really busy, and it's all relative. And no one can really understand what anybody's going through in anybody's lives unless they're living it themselves.
That's true, yeah.
So I always think of that. I've always, like I said, I guess I've always been the person I'm constantly thinking outside the square. I'm constantly, it even goes with music talks. I'm always, I don't know. I don't just think about, I guess, myself. I do always think about my friends and think, look, they're going through a lot as well. I don't want to bother anybody. I hate being a burden. And yeah, I don't want to be a burden. I've always been, unfortunately, had so many things thrown at me through life that my story became really bad, and I needed to change my own story. So, and that's part of why I started Music Talks. But the funny thing is, like I said, I never think about the past, and I don't know why that is.
I struggle with the past a lot. Like I had to do the same thing. I had to create my story differently, and that's when I started Allie's Awareness Avenue and Allie's Attic and Allie's like all the stuff that I do. And it gave me confidence, and it made me feel better, and it got me out of my funk, and my life story is much better now. But I have a hard time sometimes. I'm always looking back, and I'm always asking why. And it's not healthy, and you should be happy that you don't do it.
No, I don't do that. I don't get that, and I've had even people ask me, like professionals would say, don't think about the past. No, look, I'm going, I don't. I don't. Yeah. I actually don't. I think it's maybe because I just don't have time to look at the past.
Yeah.
But I'm always thinking of how can I make any situation better. Even not even, with the whole situation with my kids, but even Music Talks and businesses, and how can I make it better? How can I, get a message through to somebody? How can I get these artists out there more? How can I'm constantly trying to think outside the square, so I never look back. I mean, maybe the only thing I'd ask why would be, I did this campaign, why didn't it work?
Okay, I getcha.
That's my only why.
Yeah, I just have a couple triggers. So they say it's PTSD, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a couple where if something happens that it triggers me, and then I'm like back there. So I don't like doing it at all. So I try to avoid all triggers. But you're lucky that you don't look back, because I always look forward. And I'm the same as you. I'm always trying to think of different ways to do things with, my show. And one of the things, if you guys have not followed Music Talks and the website and, become part of the website, you're missing out because you give such great advice. Like, oh my God, like about social media and how to, do hashtags and how to do, like, you give such good advice. And I'm urging everybody, like, it's a Patreon account. I pay. And I mean, we all know my situation. Go and sign up for the love of God. So anyways, that was completely off topic, but I just wanted to get that in there because, I love what you do.
Thank you.
Now, you're like me too. You don't want sympathy. You don't want people feeling sorry for you. And I'm like a lot like that too. I'm telling my story more now because now I can tell it in the hopes of helping somebody, not tell it because I want somebody to be like, oh, it's okay. It's going to be all right. Because I don't like people feeling sorry for me. And you said that too as well. And at the end of the day, you also say you wouldn't wish this on your worst enemy. And I can't imagine. I can't imagine how you keep going and how you're so successful with everything that you do. And I mean, it blows me away, Tracey. Like, it blows me away.
Look, trust me, there are times when maybe my posts on Twitter aren't up to scratch or up to date, and maybe there's quite a long pause between maybe Twitter posts. They would be the days that, I just have to take time out. I'm either exhausted. I have admittedly collapsed a few times, but
Good Lord.
Who else that even runs a business, on 7 days a week hasn't?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it does come back to, trying to be there for yourself and thinking about providing the best possible care for yourself. And, I do. So when I'm feeling absolutely exhausted now, because it's just happened too often that I have been in quite bad states, just trying to please everybody and trying to get back to everybody. And all you need is one person to criticize you on social media. Man, it's like any business. It can do so much damage when really you might be having a bad day and it takes that one bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I had a similar situation like that.
Sorry?
Yeah, I had a little situation like that too. And it does. It just, you're already having a bad day and then something like that happens and it's just like, like, why? I just need to like go crawl into a hole and kind of sleep for a while. So it's totally understandable. I totally understand. Like I'm serious. You are Superwoman, Tracey. I'm like, yeah. I read everything that you sent me and I was just like, oh my God, how is she like doing this? Like, what, like, I honestly don't know if I could. It would be the hardest thing I've ever done. And I can't imagine a day in your life. I just can't. And like I said, hats off to you. You're a fantastic mom, regardless of what's going on. And you're also a fantastic businesswoman because you're so successful and you somehow are juggling all of it and not dropping any balls. And if you do every now and then, that's okay. Because good Lord, I would be.
It's nice to say it's okay. Thank you.
It is. It's okay. Now, I know you've never talked about it publicly. When you told me that and you said that you would come on, I was just blown away. Because I'm glad. I'm a big advocate of mental health, and it's because of my past and the stuff that's happened with my family. And I think it's very important that Allie's awareness is out there and shows like that, because I think people need to start having that conversation. It has to start happening, because it's not going to change unless we start talking about it. So thank you so much for coming on. Like, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's so lovely to talk with you.
It is. I could talk to you forever. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. So I'm just putting that out there.
Thank you.
Now, you are giving away 2 T-shirts, like I said. One's a men's T-shirt, one's a woman's, and it says Music Talks on it. It's very cool graphics. If you want the T-shirts, you have to be one of the first people to DM Tracey on Twitter at Music Talks. Also, 3 artists are getting real lucky. The last 2 weeks of January, Tracey's going to try to take a little vacation, which she needs. So for January, 3 featured artist placements for free. So
Yes.
these artists that are listening, like, I mean, you want to get on this website, trust me. The website is musictalks.xyz or Z, depending on where you're from. And like I said, Tracey, anytime you want to come back on, anytime you need to talk privately, I'm here. I am in awe of you. I have been since I've discovered you, or whichever happened. I think you're just amazing. And now knowing your personal life and what you're going through blows me away. So I'm going to say that 10 million times, but thank you so much for coming on. And I wish some kind of peace for you somewhere along the way.
Thank you. It will happen. We'll get there. Thank you so much again, Ali. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for listening to Ali's Awareness Avenue. If you have a topic or a life issue that you would like to talk about, just message me on my website or on all social media. It's all Ali's Attic Show. And remember, let your smile change the world. Don't let the world change your smile. Peace, love, and happiness. Cheers.